Hey, it's Scot Bertram, and I want to tell you about something new from Hillsdale College. It's the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. Check it out right now. Go to podcast.hillsdale.edu. The Hillsdale College Podcast Network offers free nationwide access to all of Hillsdale's podcast content. That means shows like the Hillsdale Dialogues, the Radio Free Hillsdale Hour, the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, the Larry P. Arnn Show, and now, new, the Imprimis Podcast. You can listen wherever you are and whenever you want, and it's always free. Find out more about all of our shows at podcast.hillsdale.edu. You can subscribe to any program with new episodes delivered right to your device. Or sign up for the super feed. That means you get access to absolutely everything posted on the site. If you want to come close to stepping inside a Hillsdale College classroom, well, the Hillsdale College Podcast Network is for you. Get informed and get entertained at podcast.hillsdale.edu. That's podcast.hillsdale.edu.
Welcome to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, bringing you insight into classical education and its unique emphasis on human virtue and moral character, responsible citizenship, content-rich curricula, and teacher-led classrooms. Now your host, Scot Bertram.
Thanks for listening. The Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio. You also can find more information on topics and ideas discussed on this show at our website, k12.hillsdale.edu. Thanks for listening. We're joined today by Nate Neveau. He's the Hillsdale Academy Athletic Director. Nate, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
First, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're a Hillsdale College graduate as well, and a little about Hillsdale Academy, please.
Yeah, I came to Hillsdale College in 2014 to play basketball. I played basketball here for 5 years. I studied while I was here accounting and then switched majors to religion. Studied religion and graduated with a BA in religion in 2019. After that year, I got married to my wife, also a Hillsdale basketball player and grad. We still live in Hillsdale. We have a daughter, Nora, and a second daughter on the way, so starting our family here as well. And this past year, I started at Hillsdale Academy as the athletic director in my first full year after graduating from the Hillsdale School of Statesmanship, the graduate program here as well. So I've been here for a while, a lot of time at the college with education, and now at Hillsdale Academy.
The athletic director position, what are the duties and responsibilities of someone in that role?
Yeah, so my position at Hillsdale Academy is somewhat multifaceted. My primary responsibility as the athletic director is to oversee all of our athletic programs, and that spills then also into some work with physical education, some operations of the school, scheduling, transportation, some other administrative tasks. But I also have the joy of teaching our ancient literature class, our 9th grade class. So I get to teach as well, and then I also help coach our basketball team. I'm an assistant for our varsity basketball team, so I get to wear a lot of hats, and I enjoy each hat that I wear.
You played basketball for us here at Hillsdale for some years, Division II basketball, pretty high-level action. That's a serious commitment on your behalf to play for 5 years and take part in essentially year-round activities, practices, games. Why was that a net positive for you? How did that help you?
Yeah, I think as I've thought more about my experience in basketball and why it's beneficial, the thing that I take away from it is much beyond the game of basketball, coming together with a group of guys committed to a common task and striving for that, encouraging one another towards it. That activity, kind of the spirit that it cultivates, the camaraderie that it cultivates, that's what's really stuck with me. And it's not just the memories of that. It's not just the friendships that linger, but it's the habits that developed along the way that I think have stuck with me as I've continued into other work, into other parts of my life.
How do you pull that kind of culture that exists on a team sport, a high-level team sport, into an athletic program at a K-12 school? Yeah,
so one of the cool things I think about the K-12 school as opposed to a college is that you already have the connection with your peers because you've grown up with these teammates. And so you already, in some ways, love the people that you're playing with. And so that bond that forms, that kind of sends you into this common pursuit is already there and then only strengthens as you go. And so some ways, I think there can be some advantages to the pursuit at the high school level. Obviously, there's some differences. Many of our kids, and we celebrate this, are participating in 2 or 3 sports. So you're on different teams and you go from sport to sport throughout the year. And so you don't have quite the intensity of focus on a particular activity with a particular group, but you have all of these different moments and opportunities and through the course of your time as a student to really cultivate those friendships, to cultivate that team spirit, and then to pursue things together.
Talking with Nate Neveau about athletics and classical education. Let me ask, what is the purpose of an athletic department in a K-12 school? Winning games, developing athletes, teaching skills. What do you think the purpose of an athletic department is?
Yeah, I think the first place we have to start is our understanding of what sets classical education athletics apart from athletics that would happen at any other school. And I think the important starting point is we have to understand that the classical tradition has a different understanding of man than many other traditions that we'll see, or many other views of man, and the classical tradition sees man as body, mind, spirit. And all of these parts of man have an end to them, something to be pursued, something to be cultivated, something that we educate towards. And at Hillsdale Academy, we believe that athletics contributes to the cultivation of man, woman, to his flourishing. And so athletics participates in that education. And I would argue in a way that maybe some other parts of the classroom cannot. Specifically, we think of the body, the mind, and the spirit. Athletics gives an opportunity for the cultivation of that spirit, for striving, for struggling, for overcoming. And while that happens at times in the classroom, there's something about engaging both the body and the mind in the struggle that really enhances the development of the spirit. So I think athletics uniquely in some ways contributes to the cultivation of the spirit in man, an important element of who he is.
So for an outsider looking in, does that seem different in practice, looking at what you do compared to what might happen at a different school?
Yeah, so theoretically we can parse terms and define the difference, but what does that pertain, or what does that relate to the day-to-day? Part of it is how we talk about athletics with our kids, how our coaches talk about athletics. We want to compete, we want to win. Those are good things, but what undergirds that is really what's different. But it does also translate into how much time are we going to spend practicing? What are we going to? How are we going to coach our kids when they fail? How are we correcting behavior? How are we managing the schedule of the athletics with their fine arts, with their homework? So all of those parts, that's how I think we really situate athletics within our school so that it isn't the tail wagging the dog, but it is an integral part of what we're doing.
So at Hillsdale Academy, what sports are offered? What can students take advantage of, participate in? And then at what level does that start?
Yeah, so we have both junior high sports, which are for grades 6 through 8. And then we also have high school athletics for grades 9 through 12. Begin with our junior high sports. We have fall, winter, and spring seasons. In the fall, for junior high, we have both boys and girls cross country and then girls volleyball. In the winter, we have both boys and girls basketball. And then in the track, both boys and girls, or in the spring, both boys and girls track. And then in the high school, we have similar offerings. In the fall, it's cross country for both boys and girls, volleyball for girls, and then we also have soccer for boys. In the winter, we have basketball, boys and girls. We have both varsity and JV teams. And then in the spring, we have boys and girls track, and then we also have a boys golf team.
You encourage students to try to do something in every season?
Yeah, we have a number of kids that are in 3 sports. I think maybe 25 of our 100 high school kids are participating in 3 sports as an approximate number. Most of our kids are in 2. 94 of our kids, of our 100 kids, are doing at least one sport. 94% of our kids are participating in athletics, which we celebrate because of how we think it contributes to the student's education. And so we're glad of that. But we want sport to be beneficial to them. So there are certain seasons where it actually makes sense for a student to step back. Mm-hmm. We have a spring musical, and a lot of times kids that are participating in that or lead roles are not playing basketball in the winter because they're really devoting their attention to that. And I think that's a healthy balance of our school that allows for them to participate and excel, but then also at other times step back from athletics to do some other things that are wonderful as well.
There are certain schools that are cutting back or eliminating certain sports, or cutting back or eliminating physical education classes as a daily, weekly requirement. Why is it important as part of a classical education to keep some of our focus on athletics?
Yeah, I think it comes back to our understanding in classical education of who man is and who man ought to become. And I think that when we look at man as not just a mind who is to be fed information that it would then regurgitate at some point, we think of the cultivation of body, we think of the cultivation of mind, we think of the cultivation of spirit. And if we remove all physical parts of education, we're losing, obviously, physical education. And we're also, I think, and I would argue, we're losing a part of the cultivation of the spirit and even the mind. Some of the lessons that are learned in physical activity in athletics translate to a better understanding of, say, justice. I get to teach ancient literature. We ask questions about the nature of justice as we read ancient plays or epics. And a lot of times the kids' context for understanding these ideas is the sports that they play. Mm-hmm. And those sports allow them to have a grounds to begin to think at a higher level. And so in all ways, athletics, physical education, it contributes to the cultivation of all parts of man.
Talking with Nate Neveau. He is athletic director at Hillsdale Academy. You're on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education podcast. What's the advantage for students to see each other not just as classmates or schoolmates, but teammates who are working together toward a goal?
Yeah, the bond that our kids form in athletics is wonderful. It's a great benefit to our school culture. It brings a sense of unity. Unhealthy athletics can do the opposite. And so, it's important that we preserve that healthy camaraderie within our school. One of the things that I really enjoy seeing is when we have our senior slideshows or open houses, and our students post these pictures of them celebrating these joyous moments with their peers. And I think part of it is in sport, you're achieving something with others, mm-hmm. and that kind of coming together for a product brings more meaning in some ways than just individual achievements. And it's wonderful to see our kids go through so many different parts of their schooling together. They have their time together on the field or the court or the track, the course. They also then perform in the play together and encourage one another in that. And then they come into the classroom and they work hard and they study and they think together. And through that all, those bonds really form, which I think brings a meaning to their whole education. It's not just about them. It's about them together becoming something better than they once were.
And what about the opportunity provided for students at all grade levels to support others in their athletic sports, in their games, and the fact that students at different levels then have interactions with students at other grade levels?
Yeah, one of the great things about being at a K-12 school is the littles getting to see the bigs, and actually the bigs getting to interact with the littles. Sometimes it softens some of the high school boys. Our seniors get to go out for lunch, and sometimes when they're coming back for lunch on Fridays, the kindergarteners are leaving. And so there's this wonderful interaction, which I think is actually more beneficial for the senior boys who get to interact with the little kids. But we get those interactions, and a lot of that comes through sport and cheering on our team, the Colts. We get to see everyone at the school come behind that. We get to have our students, our younger students, participate in helping at the game, whether it's a ball boy on the soccer field or at the hurdle crew at the track meet. Our track meets that we run in the spring are a great view of kind of the participation of our whole school in an event. We actually get out early on the day that we host regionals. All of our school moves up from Hillsdale Academy to our track to help us run the event. And you spend the day there and you really see how athletics becomes somewhat of a central communal activity. And our little kids who are there helping get to look up at the students that are a few years ahead of them and talk about how they're going to be like them, how they're going to work hard to become like them. And I think that ability to have good role models who they look up to in sport, and then also great kids who are interacting with them day to day, is really a blessing that we have at Hillsdale Academy.
And the opportunity that you as athletic director and other teachers who are coaches at Hillsdale Academy have to interact with your students outside of the classroom. You certainly have many opportunities to work together during the school day, but getting them outside of school hours and traveling to various games and working and practicing. What does that do to the relationship between teacher, coach, and student?
Yeah, it gives us another ability to connect. And for a lot of students, the connection with their teacher and coach is really what propels them. If there's no relationship there, it's hard for them to engage or to be encouraged. I'll go back to my example of teaching ancient literature. I get to teach kids hard books and read hard books with them. And then I also get to be around them as we lift weights or as we play basketball. And so getting to interact with them in that different environment gives me the ability to give them a gentle nudge or to build a relationship where they want to work hard. They want to show me respect by doing the work that I've asked them to do in the classroom. And so I think the different ways that our teachers and other staff in our school are able to be around in our kids through sport and what we do in the school, I think it only enhances how we do in each sphere.
Most K-12 schools, I imagine, have a goal of having a superior academic program at their school. Should it be as important a goal to have a superior athletic program at their school?
It really depends how you would define superior. If superior is state titles, maybe not, maybe. But in what way is athletics contributing to the education? If you mean superior in the sense of this program is contributing in a way that is leading to the flourishing of our kids during their time at our school and beyond, then yeah, I want a superior athletic program. And I think we have something very close to that. We can always get better, but we have a really healthy athletic program. And maybe the same holds for academics. One of the awards that is given by the MHSAA, which is the governing body of athletics for Michigan, they give a Scholar Athlete Award, and that award is given to top students throughout the state that honors academic achievement and performance, athletic achievement and performance, and then leadership and character references and some essay writing. And we have had 11 winners in the short history of our school, and it's a very impressive, prestigious award to get. And that, I think, for me, is a way to evaluate the success of our athletic program, because we're seeing the development of young people who are academically talented, who excel in sport, and who are also referenced by others as strong in character and leadership. And at the end of the day, that's kind of who we want to see our kids become. And so for me, that's kind of a marker of the success of our athletic programs.
How have you seen students benefit through the athletic program in that area of leadership, taking charge, being someone that others can rely on? How does the athletic program help students with their leadership skills?
Yeah, I think the opportunity to have experiences of success and failure and then being coached through those, athletics becomes a training ground in some ways for these activities of leadership. You can talk about them in the classroom. You can make references to them as you read a book like The Odyssey. But when you really see it in practice, when you come down to it and then you fail, and then your coach comes alongside of you and instructs you on how you can do it better. When you are a younger player and you have older captains or team leaders who lead well or lead poorly. And you get to learn through that experience. That teaches in a way that just reading about something does not. And so, I help with basketball. I've seen players who are unwilling to open their mouth and talk to their fellow teammates in their freshman or sophomore year. And by their junior or senior year, sometimes you just hope they will quiet themselves. But you really see these steps of maturity, or as we have senior leaders leave each year, you see that the sophomores and juniors really start to step up and take ownership and responsibility for the team. And so the athletics just continues to provide that opportunity, the training ground, if you would, for the cultivation of leadership.
Nate Neveau is athletic director at Hillsdale Academy as we talk athletics and classical education. Nate, thanks so much for joining us here on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast.
My pleasure.
I'm Scot Bertram. We invite you to like us on Facebook. Search for Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education. You also can follow us on Instagram at Hillsdale_K12. Hillsdale_K12 on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you find your audio.